ahead on 12 News, a special visit in Plymouth. Former President Ronald Reagan's son speaks about his father and about the current state of politics. Plus, a key decision. Brooklyn Park firefighters decide on something that could have a big impact on the city. But first, slow going. Why MnDOT says the commute could be especially troublesome. 12 News starts right now. We said it was coming, and it is here. The metro area is getting hit with the biggest snowfall so far this season. Hello, I'm Dwayne Cleveland.
And I'm Mike Johnson. By Friday morning, the Northwest Metro will have between 4 and 8 inches of snow on the ground, with higher totals to the east. Cassie Bonstrom joins us live now near I-94 in Brooklyn Park, where the snow is beginning to take a toll in the afternoon rush hour. Cassie?
Yeah, Mike and Elaine, the roads are looking pretty good here on I-94 in Brooklyn Park, but that's not the case for roads across the metro. Either way, I spoke to MnDOT today, and they said the warmer temperatures that we had earlier today meant there was very little they could do to prepare any of these roads. Now, the MnDOT plows were stocked and ready to go this morning, but crews had to wait to get on the roads until the snow actually started falling. That's because the ground was simply too warm for any of their salt or their anti-icing treatment to be effective. It would just dissolve or wash away.
What we have to do is we have to wait till we get the freeze, and we have to wait till we get the snow, remove the snow, and then we can put the icing and start to de-ice underneath it.
Now that the snow has started, their crews are out. Their first priority will be to move the snow off the highways and ramps, and then they'll start to de-ice. They're asking drivers to be patient and trust that crews are working as quickly as they can.
Move over, give us some room. And of all the people, motorists on the road, be patient. We can only clean the roads as fast as we can move on the roads.
Now, Mike and Elaine, just to give you an idea of how bad this winter has been for MnDOT, they said last season they used a total of 34,000 tons of salt for the entire season. This year, they've already used 68,000 tons of salt. And of course, it's only mid-February. We have a couple weeks more to go where we could get plowed pretty heavily with snow. So reporting live in Brooklyn Park, Cassie Bonstrom, 12 News.
All right, Cassie, thank you very much. Well, the snow outlook was enough to cancel some evening school activities on Thursday.
Anoka-Hennepin, Brooklyn Center, Hopkins, Osseo, and the Wayzata school districts have all canceled evening activities. For Wayzata and Hopkins, after-school practices and sectional meets will go on as scheduled. In the Robbinsdale district, most school-sponsored activities will go on as planned, with the exception of the Cooper boys basketball game against Fridley, the Armstrong girls game against Anoka, and the Robbins CI game against Centennial.
Well, after the snow, late January type cold moves in, and if winter ended today, it would already be the 9th coldest on record, according to the state climatology office. This is actually the coldest Twin Cities winter since 1978-79, and more sub-zero nights are on tap for next week. Over at LeVahn Brothers Hardware in Maple Grove, it's been a busier than usual Thursday morning. People were coming in concerned about ice dams in their homes, especially with this new snowfall.
If you get a roof rake after every snowfall, if you just clear about 4 to 6 feet, the first 4 to 6 feet on the roof, pull it down off, it doesn't allow it to freeze on that area.
And as you can imagine, it's been an especially busy winter when it comes to shovels. In other news now, a move that some say has been years in the making.
This week, 46 part-time firefighters from Brooklyn Park have joined a union. The American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees say part-time firefighters risk their lives in their job, but earn only $15 per hour and have no health insurance, no paid sick time, or no paid vacation. A recent ruling says firefighters who work a certain number of hours per year qualify as public employees under state law, which gives union rights to firefighters in many suburbs. In January, firefighters in Roseville became the first part-time firefighters to unionize in the state.
After 11 years, there are still many questions about the death of a Maple Grove woman who was struck and killed by a hit-and-run driver. Rebecca Nelson died on February 20th, 2003, as she was walking toward the community center in Maple Grove to attend her son's hockey game. There are banners in the police station and at City Hall as reminders that the case remains unsolved. There have been no arrests, no witnesses have come forward, and there were no surveillance cameras there back in 2003. Police say they are still following leads into what happened to Rebecca Nelson, but many other leads have been eliminated over the years. Crime Stoppers is offering a reward for tips that lead to an arrest. And anyone with information is urged to call 1-800-222-8477.
A decision could come soon in the Anoka-Hennepin School District's search for a new superintendent. Despite the weather, the district will go ahead and interview the last of 3 finalists tonight, Thursday. The finalists are David Law, the assistant superintendent of White Bear Lake Area Schools, Michelle Langenfield, the superintendent of Green Bay, Wisconsin Public Schools, and Jeffrey McGonigal, the associate superintendent for high schools in the Anoka-Hennepin School District. The new superintendent will replace Dennis Carlson, who is retiring in June.
The Robbinsdale City Council voted to turn down a salary increase going against a recommendation from a salary review committee. The council opted for a 0% increase for 2015. It did support, however, a 2% increase for 2016. The mayor's salary is currently about $10,000 a year. A council member receives about $8,000. Those salaries are below the median level compared to neighboring cities. The last raise the council received was in 2006.
The last significant vacancy at the shops at Arbor Lakes could be closer to becoming filled. Borders Bookstore has sat vacant since it closed 3 years ago. Now there is a report of a possible deal to fill the space. The Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal reports that Forever 21, a Los Angeles-based clothing company, is finalizing a lease for the site. It would be the company's 5th Minnesota location. A spokesperson for the shops would not confirm the news of a deal. Well, there's another honor for the restaurant and bar scene in Robbinsdale.
USA Today named St. Petersburg Restaurant and Vodka Bar one of the 10 best vodka bars in the country. That puts it up there with bars in New York, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles. St. Petersburg is known for keeping 100 different vodkas in stock, all connected to different regions in Russia. USA Today says live music and happy hour specials make this bar a fan favorite. Coming up, breakfast with the president's son.
We were in Plymouth for a special visit with Ronald Reagan's son, Michael. Then later in sports, the Maple Grove boys hockey team prepares for a playoff run.
But first, an exhausting forecast. Brace yourself for more frigid cold Friday and this weekend.
Welcome back. They call it Pancakes at Providence.
Providence Academy in Plymouth hosted a guest speaker Thursday morning, and reporter Sonia Goins has more on what this special visitor had to say.
I don't know, it was just a fun, interesting way to start the morning.
Teachers, students, and parents gathered early this morning to listen to Michael Reagan, the son of former President Ronald Reagan.
My dad was always out there learning, educating. My dad was a great storyteller.
Reagan doesn't mince words when it comes to promoting his father's legacy. He also says his father would be hard-pressed to win the GOP nomination today.
Because if you put him on the stage last year in the debates, you would have put somebody on stage who you never would have seen as president, only as governor, only as an actor. And who on that stage would have attacked him for raising taxes as governor?
Reagan also talked about the importance of education and the need for more parental involvement.
And sometimes we make a mistake of putting too much on the teacher, and once they get home, stop the learning process. Never stop that learning process.
He also recalled how his father found ways to work with communist leader Mikhail Gorbachev.
He didn't make enemies, he made friends of enemies.
This was President Reagan's famous 1987 speech at the Brandenburg Gate in Germany.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
29 months after that speech, the wall was torn down.
What I learned this morning was there's actually a plaque there where Reagan was successful in working with the Russians, pushed hard but wasn't confrontational, and ultimately the wall comes down and people enjoy a little more freedom.
Michael Reagan also touched on modern-day politics, poking fun at the Affordable Care Act.
Because, at my age, I have to have young people buy health care now so that I can afford it.
Providence officials say this event wasn't about red or blue, but about educating its students.
As they say, you learn something new every day. I think Pancakes at Providence offers people a chance to do that.
In Plymouth, Sonia Goins, 12 News.
All right, thanks, Sonia. Coming up, a standout student who excels on the slopes and distances herself in the classroom.
But first in sports, the Wayzata Gymnastics team is set for the state meet. We profile the Trojans coming up with John Jacobson.
getting to some of these hockey playoff games might be kind of interesting tonight,
Yeah.
but the games will go on,
Games
right?
will go on. Other teams will just get to wait a couple of days and just kind of watch the snow tonight instead of having to play. The puck drops tonight for some playoff teams in boys hockey, while in Section 5AA, those teams will hit the ice Saturday for quarterfinal games. Maple Grove is the number 2 seed for the 5AA tournament. The Crimson carry a 14-8-3 record into the postseason, including going 7-2-2 down the stretch. Maple Grove's played a tough non-conference slate too, and they feel ready to make a playoff run.
I like our chances. We've been pressing really hard here. We had a couple setbacks in the last month, so we're really figuring out what we need to do, and we're coming through at a good time.
Coming off a tough loss against Blaine, but we've had a lot of conversations internally with the team here, and we feel that we've identified some things that we need to fix going into the playoffs here against every team that we'll face. And, you know, the message this week to the guys is not overlooking anybody.
Saturday's opponent from Maple Grove is Osseo. The Crimson swept the Orioles this season. Because of the rivalry, the Crimson view this a little different than the normal number 2 versus number 7 seed matchup.
It should be a hard-working game like it always is against those guys. They always bring their lunch pail to the game, and we just got to come and play our game and not get sucked into what they're doing. And it should be a close one, and hopefully we can come out with the win.
Here's the slate for Saturday in 5AA. Top seed Blaine meets Coon Rapids at noon at the Champlin Ice Forum, followed by Rogers, Anoka, and then Maple Grove and Osseo at 5 o'clock. You can watch a replay of the Orioles and Crimson Sunday night at 7 here on Channel 12. Champlin Park meets Centennial at 8 o'clock at Coon Rapids. The state gymnastics meet gets underway Friday morning with Class A team competition. Wayzata's girls will be in the Class AA field for a second straight year. The Trojans won the Section 6AA meet last Saturday with a season best score of 148.275. That topped their previous high by about 2 points. It's a pretty big jump. That kind of performance gives the Trojans a boost of confidence as they look to compete with the state's elite teams.
Yeah, I know that that Roseville got on 148.675, which means we're only about 4/10 away from them. It's really exciting that we got that close to them, because I never would have thought that we would have gotten that close. So we do have a chance.
It definitely gave them a lot of confidence. You know, as coaches, we've always been telling them this whole season that they can be in that 148, 149, 150 range, and they never really believed us. But Saturday, they had to prove it to themselves, and they did that on Saturday.
The Trojans say they've been working this week on getting the small things right, trying to maximize every point in their routines and make a good showing at state.
Our main goal is just to have fun. We're not really going to win. We would like to beat our section score, but if it doesn't happen, then at least we knew that we had fun and that we're just leaving it all out on the floor.
The Class A team competition, which includes Breck, is at 11 o'clock Friday morning. The Class AA team with Wayzata and Champlin Park will be part of the 8-team field. That's at 6 o'clock Friday evening. Saturday, it's the individual competition at the University of Minnesota Sports Pavilion. You can catch more fish, including crappies, this winter with a little more use of electronics. Pro angler Tackle Terry Tuma explains in this week's Channel 12 Ice Fishing Tip.
So many times we as anglers have a tendency to get in sort of, shall we say, a rut, if you will. You know, and for instance, a good example, and this is going to apply more than just to crappie fishing, but now we're marking suspended crappies right in this area right here. And all of a sudden, maybe we catch 3, 4, or 5, or they just move, and we don't mark any more suspended crappies, but we keep trying, and it's not productive. What we need to do is take a small lure and drop it to the bottom with the wax worm instead of this system here with a crappie minnow or pin minnow, and drop it down to the bottom, and then all of a sudden we start to jig, and many times we're going to have to jig a little bit more abruptly, if you will, and with the wax worm and a small ice lure, maybe a number 12, 14, or 16, and then you're going to start to bring these fish up right off the bottom here. And we can sort of see what's happening right here now, where we'll start to see some of these fish break the bottom, and those are going to be fish that are belly to the bottom, so to speak, with many times anglers do not believe that crappies will be that tight to the bottom. That's not true. And we start to jig really abruptly, and then we're trying to draw these fish in, and it works extremely well. Very productive throughout the winter months. So we don't want to get hung up on these specific weights and specific lures. That versatility factor, as we always so often talk about. Be sure to tune in next week for another tip right here. Keep just enough fish for the frying pan.
Thanks, Terry. We'll have highlights from Section 6AA boys hockey plus Benilde at the state girls hockey tournament coming up Friday starting at 4.
Always good to hear from Terry.
It is,
Thanks,
yeah.
John.
Still ahead, this week's Standout student.
You may have seen her on Channel 12 for her skiing accomplishments. We'll show you another side of this standout student when we come back.
A well-rounded student is generally someone who excels in the classroom and participates in after-school activities.
But today's standout student from Wayzata High School takes that to a whole new level. She's a student who is truly a jack of all trades. Alayna Sonnesyn is no stranger to the 12 News airwaves. This Wayzata High School senior has made numerous television appearances throughout high school for her success in skiing.
Freshman and sophomore year, I took second place both years. This year, I took third overall, and the team won. We've won this year and last year, so that was really cool to see.
When she's not skiing, she also acts as captain of the cross-country team.
We just know a lot about each other, and we're such great friends.
But there's more to Alayna than her athletic ability.
I'd say pretty involved in the school. I'm the vice president of the student council. I'm part of National Honor Society and Club YES, which is a volunteering club.
There's one more.
On top of that,
The instantaneous rate of change.
she excels in the classroom with a GPA around 3.8.
She's kind of the full package with that.
Wayzata High School staff members say she's unlike most of the student athletes they encounter.
I've been here 18 years, and it would be hard-pressed to find someone who's been on 4 state championship teams and then also a national championship team, let alone be part of the student council and be a top student.
However, Alayna admits that her hectic schedule does present some challenges.
I mean, sometimes I've had to come to school by 6:30 just to get everything done, and I'll stay here until 9.
Despite the long days, her hard work has paid off. In November, she received a Nordic skiing scholarship at the University of Vermont.
A lot of people in my position have decided to not go to college and just ski full time, and I decided that that wasn't something that I wanted to do. I wanted to get that college education and ski at the same time.
People who know Alayna say her work ethic will serve her well beyond her days in high school.
We're trying to transform lives through academics and athletics, and I think she's been the poster child for that.
Alayna said she's undecided on a major at Vermont, but she plans to choose between either economics or biology. You know, it's really interesting, too. I was hearing about her schedule. She's getting there 6 a.m., staying until 9 p.m. It's crazy.
Wow. In high school, wow. That's it for now. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody.
Community Corner is up next.